In this video, we're going to factor trinomials where a is not equal to 1, and we're going to use something we call wrong way factoring. First, we're always going to look for greatest common factor, and then we're going to put the value of a in both of our factors with the variable. And this is something that is wrong since we only need one value of a. So by the time we're finished, we'll just divide out the extra value of a. We're still going to find factors of a times c that will add or subtract to equal b. So let's take a look at some examples. For number 1, we have 2m squared plus 11m minus 21. We have 2 as our smallest number that we could possibly divide 11 and 21 by, but they don't divide evenly by 2, and 2 is a prime number, so we don't have a greatest common factor. So let's take our a value and multiply by our c value of negative 21, and we would get negative 42. And then we always want to add up to get our b value, which is 11. So to get started, we're going to put the a value in both factors with the m. So we put 2m and 2m. And notice that would multiply back together again to give us 4m squared, which would be too big. So by the time we're finished, we just have to divide out the extra 2. We still need the m times the m because we do need m squared. And so that value is fine. We just have to divide out the extra value of 2. So let's take a look at the signs. We have a negative sign for the value of c. So that means our signs are going to be different. So we have one positive and one negative. And then the sign in the middle means our larger number is going to need to be positive. All right, so let's come back over here to negative 42. So we numbers that will multiply to give us 42 and add up to 11. So we have 1 times 42, we have 2 times 21, we have 3 times 14, we have 6 times 7. So 3 and 14 would help us to get 11. And the larger number needs to be the positive number so that we would have 14 and negative 3 would add up to 11, and then negative 3 times 14 would multiply to give us negative 42. So then let's put those into our factors. We have the 3 is the negative number, 14 is the larger positive number, but now we need to divide out that extra 2 that we put in the beginning. And so you're just going to divide which one you see divides evenly by 2, because usually one of your factors will. And I see that 2 and 14 would divide evenly by that extra 2 value. So I'm going to divide the 2 out from that factor, but don't write it out front because you're just trying to divide it out to kind of get rid of it because you don't need the extra value. So then I get factors m plus 7 and 2m minus 3. So just for this first example, I'm going to show you that if we multiply this back together again, we would indeed get what we started with. Just to show you that it does work even when we do wrong way method. So 2m times m gives me 2m squared. 2m times 7 is 14m. Negative 3 times m is negative 3m. And negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. Then we can add these two in the middle. And we end up with 2m squared plus 11m minus 21. Which is what we started with. So notice like it does check out when we use this method, just in case you were having any doubts. So let's look at another example. Number 2 says 4x squared minus 8x plus 3. For this one, the 4, the 8, and the 3 don't have anything we could take out. So let's say a times c would be 4 times 3, which is 12. And we need to add up to get b, which is negative 8. So let's put the a value of 4 with the x in both factors. We see the last term is positive, so that means our signs are going to be both the sign of b, which is a minus or a negative. And so we just need to focus on 12. What factors of 12 would help us to get 8? So we have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. So 2 and 6 would help us to get 12, and we know they both are going to need to be negative. So negative 2 plus negative 6 is negative 8, and negative 2 times negative 6 does give us positive 12. So let's put the 2 and the 6. Now in this case, we need to divide out the extra 4. but neither factor we have would divide by the whole 4. So what you do is break it up into factors of 4. So if I take out a 2 in the first one and a 2 in the second one, it's equivalent to taking out 4 because 2 times 2 equals 4. And so then we're left with 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 3. And that's it. Let's look at another one. So number 3 has 6b squared plus 5b minus 4. So we don't have a greatest common factor again. Let's go ahead and multiply a times c. So 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. And then we need to add to get the middle number, which is 5. So let's get everything set up. We're going to put 6b in both parentheses. We have a negative for our last term, so our signs are going to be different. And the larger number is going to need to be the positive number. We can tell because that's the sign of b. So let's figure out what will help us multiply to get 24 and add to get 5. So we have 1 times 24. We have 2 times 12. 3 times 8. 4 times 6. So 3 and 8 are the ones that would help us to get 5. And then we know our larger number needs to be the positive number. So we're going to put 8 and negative 3 because they add to give us 5. And then they also multiply to give us negative 24. So 8 and negative 3. Let me move my note out of the way. So now we need to divide out the extra 6. So you want to check and see, do you have a factor that would divide evenly by the whole 6 first? Because if that's true, you could just divide it out. But in this case, 6 and 8 don't divide by 6. And then 6 and 3 also don't divide by 6. That would be too big. But I can take out a 2 from the first group and a 3 from my second group, my second factor. And then I would be able to say that I've taken out 6 since 2 times 3 is equivalent to 6. So then I'm left with 3b plus 4 and 2b minus 1. And that's it. Number 4, let's take a look at this last one. We have 7m squared minus 19m minus 6. So 7, 19, and 6 do not have a greatest common factor. So let's go ahead and multiply the 7 times negative 6. So we get negative 42. We need to add to get the middle term, which is negative 19. So let's get set up with 7m in both parentheses. We have a negative for our last term, so that means our signs are going to be different, and then the larger number will need to be negative. So this will be the larger number. So then we need to figure out what multiplies to give us 42 and adds up to 19. So we got 1 times 42, 2 times 21, 3 times 14, and 6 times 7. So 2 and 21 would be our best option because they are 19 apart from one another. Our larger number, we've already made a note, is got to be negative. So we have negative 21 plus 2 will give us negative 19. And negative 21 times 2 multiplies back together to give us negative 42. So let's put 2 and negative 21. And then we need to divide out the extra 7, our extra a value. So 7 and 2 do not divide by 7, but 7 and 21 do divide by 7. So I'm going to divide a whole 7 out of the second factor. So just bring the first one down. It'll just stay the same. And then you have m minus 3 for the second factor. So that is it for wrong way factoring of trinomials where a is not equal to 1.